F on me.
Hunt Showdown is one of the most brutal and unforgiving shooters out there. If you go in blind, you're gonna have a rough time. But don't worry, today I'm gonna make sure you're fully prepared before stepping into your first hunt. We'll cover the best settings, essential gear, game modes, and even how the matchmaking system works. Stick around and you'll be surviving longer, fighting smarter, and getting more kills. Let's get started. Before you even load into a match, let's talk about your setup. First, set your server region to the one with the lowest ping. If you're experiencing issues, try switching to your second best option. Navigate over to the settings, then to the game menu. You will see the region. I use US East and then US West for my secondary. Make sure you pick the best region for you. Trust me, you do not want lag screwing you over in a game like Hunt where every shot counts. They've also added the crosshair position setting. It used to always be lowered, but now they've added the centered option, which is more traditional for most FPSs. If you navigate over the control section, you'll see the control scheme between Gunslinger and Hunter. I always recommend for new players to go for the Gunslinger scheme, as it's more traditional for most FPSs. Scroll down and you'll see your sensitivities. You have a bunch of different sensitivities for a bunch of different types of weapons. Something with new Hunt players is they always seem to have their sensitivity too high. I recommend whatever you think your sensitivity should be, do a bit lower and work from there. Next up is sound. Sound is everything in Hunt. Get a good headset. There are so many sounds, from distant crows going off, gunfire, footsteps, and even enemy players breathing when they ADS. Yeah, you heard that right. You can actually hear players holding their breath while aiming down sights. That tiny detail can be the difference between life and death in a game like Hunt.
Open the door.
When you're just starting out, don't get attached to your hunters. You will die, you will lose your gear, and that's okay. Take advantage of the free hunters early on while you learn the game. Later on, you'll start earning more money, and you can start customizing your builds more. But for now, focus on learning the maps and the mechanics, and really just how to stay alive more. Now let's talk about what you should actually bring into a match. You don't need expensive gear to be effective. A Frontier or a Ranger rifle is cheap, easy to use, and still deadly. Pair it with a Caldwell conversion pistol or a Nagant officer for solid backup firepower. I personally like to go for the full metal jacket ammo on the Caldwell conversion pistol and the high velocity ammo on the Frontier as well. FMJ allows for stronger bullet penetration when shooting through things like walls or doors or fences, and then the high velocity just makes your bullet travel faster, which makes it a lot easier to hit a moving target. Next up, you'll want to always carry a melee tool and a first aid kit, no matter what. I almost always opt for the knuckle knife as it's one of the most versatile melee tools in the game, but you can never go wrong with just a basic knife. Another useful tool are choke bombs. Their primary use is to extinguish flames so you can put out burning teammates and revive them safely. Alternate uses could be using it as a smokescreen or putting out poison clouds. Also, you can hear hunters choking and coughing whenever they walk through this. For my final tool, I always carry the flare pistol, mainly to use it for burning enemy hunters, but it could also be used for a variety of other things, such as blowing up explosive barrels. When it comes to consumables, I always recommend new players take at least 2 other health options besides the basic first aid kit, meaning the weak or strong vitality shot and then the weak or strong regeneration shot. I also recommend bringing in either the weak or strong stamina shot as well. This is something I used to not really worry about as a newer player, but as I've gained experience through playing Hunt, I've noticed that being without stamina can lead to so many different problems. And when it comes to your final consumable slot, this is really up to you. But you can never really go wrong with the wax dynamite stick. It's basically the exact same thing as a regular dynamite stick, except it's only $600 more expensive, and it can actually explode in water too. So it just adds a little bit of extra versatility there. Last thing with consumables is that I always see new players are so afraid to use them that they end up just dying with a fully loaded hunter stacked with 4 consumables. Don't be afraid to use them. They're cheap and easy to replenish by looting toolboxes or dead hunters. You'd be surprised at how many more kills you'll start getting once you actually start using your consumables more often. Free hunters will also come with a basic trait in the hunter trait section down here. This trait is usually pretty low tier. I wouldn't worry about removing it or changing it because you won't have many perk points to work with. However, one thing I do want to say is if you are using a bow, I almost always recommend removing whatever that trait is and getting the 100 hands perk. This perk increases the overall damage of the hunting bow. It also reduces sway at full draw and allows you to do a melee attack with the bow. It's really just a no-brainer in my opinion if you do want to run a bow, which is also a great option for free hunters as they are cheap and very effective. They're just a bit harder to master.
You're a god, bro. You're a f***ing god.
Now that you got your settings and your loadout ready, let's start trying to understand Hunt's 3 different game modes. Starting with the main mode, Bounty Hunt. This is the main mode, where you and your team track down and kill a boss monster, banish it, and escape with the bounty while fighting off other hunters. You'll have to search for and find 3 different clues for each monster, using your dark sight. Once you've found all 3, the boss's lair will then be revealed to you on the map and also in dark sight. After you've made it to the boss's lair, you'll then have to kill the boss, which each boss has different immunities and weaknesses for you to figure out. For instance, the spider is immune to poison, however, most of the other bosses in the game are very weak to poison. Once you kill the boss, you'll then have to banish the boss by interacting with it. This will also alert every other player in the game that you've just banished the boss and your exact location if they have not found the boss yet. Vanishing will take a few minutes, and you should use this time to booby trap your lair, set up your defenses, and start thinking of a plan for when those enemy hunters arrive and try to take that bounty from you. After you've banished the boss, it will drop 2 bounty tokens, which you and your partner can pick up, and it'll give you 5 seconds of what's called Dark Sight. You can use your dark sight to see enemy hunters through any sort of physical material up to 150 meters away. The only caveat is whenever you're holding a bounty, enemy hunters can see a general location of where you are at all times by looking on the map or through dark sight. Once you have the bounty, you'll need to make your way to one of the 3 extraction zones, which are the white arrows around the edges of the map. These will be in different locations every game you play, but they're always going to be on the edge of the map. Once you've safely made it to an extraction zone and stood in there for 30 seconds, you'll be extracted out of the map and you'll survive with your hunter, all your gear, and any of the bounty that you're able to bring back with you. You can play in solos, duos, or trios. In duels, you only face teams of 2, making teamwork essential. In trios, expect more chaotic and tactical fights where communication is going to be key. And solos is a pure survival challenge, as you're fighting against full teams all by yourself. I recommend starting with duos or trios early on. Next up is the Sole Survivor mode. This is a solo-only mode where you fight for survival, trying to find 4 rifts to activate the Wellspring. Once you've activated the Wellspring, you can absorb its energy and save your hunter's soul. However, once this happens, every other hunter in the game will be notified of your position and will be given unlimited dark sight to be able to see you through walls once in close proximity. Only 1 hunter can survive. This mode is your more traditional Battle Royale mode, as you'll enter in with one of 4 different random hunters with absolutely no gear besides your choice of a low tier medium range weapon, low tier short range weapon, or melee weapon. Slightly different from Bounty Hunt, in Sole Survivor you're able to loot random weapons and consumables and tools littered around the map on these small blue boxes. The goal should be to move quickly, move quietly, and collect a decent amount of gear to be able to survive the final all-out brawl that is either you defending yourself against other players or hunting down that last person that's already activated the Wellspring. Sole Survivor is a bit more of a casual game mode since you're not risking your own hunters or your own gear. So I normally use it now as just a way to warm up my aim and warm up my senses before running some actual bounty hunt. And now onto the final and new mode, Bounty Clash. This mode is pure chaos. It's a fast-paced fight over a pre-killed boss. You can play in duos, trios, or solos just like Bounty Hunt, but the matchmaking is fixed, meaning you could be a solo fighting against a duo or trio. Be prepared for some brutal fights. This mode can go up to 12 players, all spawning around a single compound, with the common goal of hunting every other person around them and getting out with that bounty. Like I said, this mode is tough, but it can be useful for new players to just get in and get into gunfight after gunfight after gunfight to really just work on honing their aiming and shooting skills. Finally, I want to talk about the MMR system. Hunt uses a skill-based matchmaking system that ranks players from 1 to 6 stars based on their performance, 1 star being the lowest and 6 stars being the highest. Downing higher ranked hunters raises your MMR faster, while getting downed by a lower ranked hunter drops it more significantly. However, 1 or 2 bad games won't tank your rank. The system looks at consistency over time. To find your MMR after a match, go to the team details in the bottom left, and you will see your team MMR as well as every other hunter in the game's MMR. You can look at each hunter individually and see what the MMR ranking of the other players in the game were. You can also see who downed you, who downed your teammates, and who you and your teammates downed. Early on, matchmaking can be a bit unpredictable since the game doesn't have much data on your skill level yet, but after a few matches, you'll start getting placed against more consistent opponents. And that's everything you need to know before hunting your first bounty. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most new players. Let me know in the comments what you guys enjoyed most about this video, and if you found anything in here helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my new upcoming videos. I plan on uploading a lot more beginner and advanced guides talking about loadouts, positioning strategies, and a bunch of different survival tactics. Thanks for watching, and good hunting out there.